We're going to go back to sort of big picture ideas for Dayton. Our next speaker really needs no introduction with this group. Matt Sauer has helped hack our city in many ways, including as co-founder of the Dayton PK group. Where's John Gower? John, we're going to go way back in the way back machine. In 1966, construction began on the freeway portion of U.S. Route 35. And the gash it left in downtown Dayton, I really mean a gash it left, is still a development barrier today. US 35 split neighborhoods. We almost lost the Oregon District through that construction. Imagine how different Dayton would be today without the Oregon District. So to talk about his plan for removing US 35 from downtown Dayton, please welcome Matt Sauer.
I feel like I can sit down. Everything was just said by Scott. So we want to talk about a really big hack, right? My idea is to remove a major portion of 35 from downtown, the portion Scott alluded to that cut this gash through our city. And I think it's maybe appropriate just to stop here and look at the aesthetics of what was actually built and consider that we don't really need this kind of brutal imposition in our city. And it'd be a lot nicer if we had an alternative. So lots of other cities around the country and around the world have looked at freeway removal as a tool to revitalize their cities. Usually it's to avoid paying deferred maintenance on a roadway. But a lot of cities are realizing that there's a lot of value under these viaducts and under these highways. San Francisco in 1989, they tore down the Embarcadero Freeway and created this beautifully landscaped boulevard in front of the ferry terminal building, which also got renovated. Basically connected their city back to its waterfront. They didn't see any economic loss from having removed the freeway. Milwaukee removed the Park East Freeway in 2002 and saw about $300 million worth of investment in just a 26-acre segment of the city. As you can see, they were knitting their city back together too, where the freeway cut through whole neighborhoods. So why is 35 a candidate for this? It's outdated, for one. So the planning, as Scott mentioned, was done 60 years ago. The construction is 60 years ago. You wouldn't have a business plan last that long without reevaluating it and updating it for current conditions. Do we really need a crosstown expressway at this point in Dayton's history? It's wasteful. You can see all the on and off ramps that sort of snake around downtown. The Kiwi one makes me laugh every time because it's like a mile long that parallels 35. Crazy, right? But you can see what it did to the city when they built this thing. So if you shrink the roadway, you're shrinking the maintenance that's associated with it. So if you look long term, we know that highways are going to be underfunded, transportation is going to be underfunded going forward. Why not shrink the roadway for 2 miles and lessen the amount that Ohio taxpayers have to spend maintaining it? It's ugly. I've mentioned this before. I mean, clearly, nobody would argue that this is a beautiful piece of architecture, a Roman aqueduct, cutting through Dayton. Nobody wants to walk through that. Nobody wants to bike through that. And so why do we accept these urban environments as part of the fabric of our city? It prevents economic spillover, another thing Scott alluded to, but if you look at 1938, this is an aerial shot of Dayton, you can see how these swaths of neighborhoods just were sort of going off into infinity. Oregon and South Park, there was no distinction between the two. St. Anne's, Twin Towers, no distinction there. If we were to remove the barrier, remove the wall and moat, in some cases, of US 35, we could basically reconnect these areas, and economic investment that happens in one area might be more likely to migrate south, in effect. Thanks, Tony Kroger, for the image. So this is what Photoshop shows that you can do with this space. If you reconceive the roadbed as about 100-foot right-of-way, you can start to think about connecting these streets back up to the street grid, connecting streets across 35, in effect, where they're not now. I think it looks actually pretty good as open space. That could be an alternative too. But the real value here, I think, is in conceiving this as a 100-acre development site. If you look at the assessed value of all the property that's adjacent to where we're talking, these new parcels could have as much as $100 million worth of new property value. And so that's adding, tax revenue and the like. In terms of density, I haven't really gotten into, what does this look like? What's the design like? But you could imagine sort of lower density, maybe townhouses with some corner retail between Kiowee and Steve Whalen, and then between Kiowee going west, maybe higher density. Maybe it's 4 to 7 story, European-style courtyard apartment blocks, and really emphasize that this 35 Boulevard, it's now a boulevard, it's on grade, has a lot of multimodal characteristics. It carries bike traffic with protected bike lanes. You've got wide sidewalks for pedestrians, urban cafes, and the like. So this is the Paseo de Gracia in Barcelona, sort of the gold standard for boulevards. It's a little wider than what I'm talking about at 200 feet, wall to wall. But it shows you what could be done, what sort of urban activity can happen in a space like this. That's basically a street, but it's an awesome street. Closer to home in Indianapolis, you've got the Cultural Trail providing protected bike lanes for its citizens. The Health Line in Cleveland, you could imagine there could be a transit component to a revitalized or new boulevard. A lot of different ideas out there. So what are the challenges to implementation? Getting the city, county, state, federal government to cough up all the money. That's one. But ODOT does have a realignment plan for 35 in the works that's just waiting for funding, and so now would seem to be the right time to have this conversation. We gained a lot from the redesign. We gained a lot of new economic generators in the form of new residents, new businesses. Again, this 100-acre parcel, that would be really difficult to assemble any other way other than saying, ODOT's got this low-hanging fruit here that perhaps we could repurpose. 100 acres, just for context, is about 20 water streets or 11 fairground sites, so it's very sizable. And then there's the idea that maybe this becomes the starting point of a spine that connects the VA all the way up to the base, and that's either bus, rapid transit, maybe it's light rail, some other options. So, if you have any comments for me, feedback, if you want to follow our progress, go to facebook.com/Dayton Freeway, or see me at the beer break. Thanks a lot.